Thank you.
Right. We now go to one of our senior members in Congress in terms of service, not age, Marcy Kaptur from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're a very diplomatic man. Mr. Lewis, thank you for appearing this morning. As you can tell, there are serious questions being raised about how much you actually knew about Merrill Lynch's condition, and indeed the condition of Bank of America, that you then did or didn't share with your shareholders. And I'd like to cast a wider lens on a pattern of behavior of Bank of America and perhaps other institutions in our country that some have dubbed crony capitalism that has led our nation to the precipice that it now faces. On August 20th, 2007, the Federal Reserve replied to a Bank of America request to waive banking regulation that limited the amount that federally insured banks can lend to related brokerage companies to 10% of bank capital. Until that point, banking regulation was that banks with federally insured deposits should not be put at risk by brokerage activities. 4 months after that waiver was provided to Bank of America bought Countrywide, which has proven to be the worst subprime lender in our nation, and I'd like to place in the record a report by the Center for Public Integrity that documents that. And the question that I have is, who headed Bank of America at the time that the request was made of the Fed to waiver that, to allow Bank of America to enter into that brokerage activity?
I was the chairman and the CEO of the company.
You were chairman and CEO, so you made the request.
No, I didn't. I don't know of this particular request.
But you are aware that Bank of America then bought Countrywide 4 months later?
Yes, ma'am. I am very aware of that.
Okay. What kind of due diligence was done on their portfolio?
We did a great deal of due diligence on their portfolio, and I'm proud to tell you that we bought them. We changed all of their lending practices. They're now a prime lender. They are the ones that are doing these loan modifications. They're not doing Alt-A's and subprimes. Bank of America had gotten out of subprime in 2001. We were not doing it at all. And so we've turned that company around to a very reputable mortgage lender doing the right things.
But you had to absorb all their losses?
No, ma'am. We in the transaction, there's a accounting thing called purchase accounting where you mark the assets down before you buy them.
That sort of leads me to my next question. It has been stated that the Bank of America in 2008 conspired with Merrill Lynch in a sweetheart deal to give out exorbitant bonuses to Merrill executives totaling over $4 billion. That's with a B. In December 2008, soon after Bank of America got major infusions from taxpayer TARP money. But in 2008, on its federal taxes, Bank of America, though it earned $4.4 billion that year, apparently paid just $120 million in taxes and deferred $5 billion in taxes for 2008. Some people are saying that Bank of America acquiesced to the Merrill bonuses because otherwise all of Bank of America's 2008 earnings would have been consumed with bonuses for Merrill. How do you respond to that?
Well, the transaction with Merrill took place on January the 1st of this year. And until that time, they had a separate board and a separate compensation committee. We had entered into an agreement which allowed us to cap the bonuses and to have influence on the bonuses, but that the final decision would be made by their compensation committee and their board because it was still a separate public company. So there was not a connectivity fully until after they became a subsidiary of Bank of America.
But it certainly looks like, I don't want to use the word hedge, but it certainly looks like financial people inside your company were anticipating what might occur, and the deferral of taxes in 2008 seems most curious.
Well, I'm not a tax attorney, and I don't know exactly what the hedging was, but but it was not. I don't see the connection to Merrill, because Merrill was the next year.
Well, I would sure appreciate, Mr. Lewis, if you could provide for the record what net effective tax your company paid in 2008, because to me it looks like you paid 1/50th of what you should, and I'd like to compare what tax rate was paid and the amount that was paid versus what the average middle-class family in our country pays. I think the record will show you paid actually substantially less. I have a request, Mr. Chairman, if I could, for information for the record. Mr. Lewis, is it possible that in the spring of 2008, I have information that Bank of America bought a portfolio of subprime loans from the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation that had been previously originated by Superior Bank of Illinois? Subsequently, Bank of America sold those same loans valued at hundreds of billions of dollars to investors who, as of last year, have now suffered major realized losses. Has Bank of America estimated the amount of those losses attributable to the acquisition of the Superior FDIC portfolio sold to Bank of America, and can you provide that to the record?
Yes, ma'am, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Right. Now I yield to Congressman Welch from Vermont.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Lewis, for being